Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Brady. I am here with Canva's co-founder, Chief Product Officer, Cameron Adams. Cameron, nice to see you.
It is so great to be here, Diane. Coming to you from sunny Austin.
Sunny Austin. And why are you in Austin? Is that just because it's a cool place to hang out?
Austin, Texas is actually where we decided to put our biggest hub in the US. And we just moved offices. We're in the east side here in Austin, and we've opened the new office, and it's totally buzzing today. There's so many people who have popped in for the opening, and it's a really exciting vibe.
Okay, so I now have to start with that because is it because of talent or that why Austin? Because a lot of people would go to Silicon Valley or.
Yeah, it's mostly because of the talent. So we've got a lot of sales folk here who are focusing on enterprise and also education here in the United States. And there's just so many good folks here. I think it's also a really good cultural hub and vibe as well, which we always look for very carefully for Canva homes all around the world. When people come into the office physical space, we want them to feel like Canva is there with them. And Austin just ticked all those boxes. San Francisco is obviously a big tech hub, but it's getting so competitive there and really hard to differentiate yourself. And Austin just let us do that on both the cultural level and the company level.
So I should remind people, it's a design software maker because you have 135 million active users. Is that right at this point? So a lot of people are
Yes.
still not using the platform. Let's talk a little bit about the genesis of Canva for those who don't know. It's, first of all, originated in Australia. Talk about sort of what the purpose was in founding it and where it is today.
Yeah, so we started Canva just over 11 years ago. The product's been out for about 10 years. And me and my co-founders met in Sydney, Australia. And we really connected over this idea that design should be democratized. It was a superpower that not many people had access to for a whole range of reasons. One, software was really expensive. It was complicated to use. And people didn't know where to go to get stuff like photos and fonts and layouts, and then understand how to bring all that together into a decent design that could communicate what they wanted to. So we saw this real gap in the market and started building a product that anyone could pick up. So rather than 1% of professional, people who could design, the other 99% of the world being able to access that and access the impact that you can have through visual communication. It took us about 1 year to build that product. And when we launched it, we just got real traction amongst people working in visual content at the time. So visual social media was just picking up. Stuff like Instagram and Pinterest had just become popular. And people were really thirsty to be able to create content that was engaging folks on those platforms. And Canva was just the perfect tool for it. Over the years, we've grown from somewhat of that niche through to visual communication and design in almost every walk of life, from creating your birthday invitations through to creating a pitch deck for your business, making a t-shirt, making a video, making the marketing materials that you need to go out on social in real
Data
life.
visualization tools. I think that's one of the more recent ones, right? With
We just acquired. We acquired a company in London called Flourish, and I actually just came from there a couple of weeks ago because we had another big office opening there. And our office in Shoreditch is home to the data visualization team, which is focusing on charts, data storytelling, and really unique forms of data visualization that enable people to dive into the data that we've all got, but we probably don't understand and it's too complicated, and be able to tell really valuable stories that actually drive action from them. And the Flourish integration with Canva has been amazing for doing that. We actually visited a bunch of different companies that had started employing it, places like BBC, Rolls-Royce, L'Oreal, and what they've been able to do with combination of data visualization and visual communication through Canva has just been mind-blowing.
So do those kinds of companies support the number of users who use it for free? Because I think Canva's a terrific tool. You offer so much to people that they don't have to pay for. I'm always curious how you move people up the scale to where they're giving you essentially revenue for using your product.
Yeah, we see it as a natural model for what we want to achieve. So our mission is to empower the world to design. And we literally want every person in the world to be able to access the design tools and the design thinking that they need to actually have an impact in their lives, whether they're running a business or they're just using it in their personal lives. So having a freemium model where people can access it for free is really important to that mission. But obviously, the company needs to be economically sustainable as well. So we've focused a lot on that next level tier of people who are using visual communication in a much more pointed way. So small to medium businesses who use it every day to promote their businesses, teams inside organizations, and large enterprises who have massive brand needs, international marketing goals that they have to hit, hundreds of offices around the world, and building that layer that people will pay for and will happily pay for has been important to the growth of Canva's revenue over the last few years. And in the last 2 years, we've focused really keenly on enterprises because small to medium businesses have loved Canva for a long time. Enterprises actually have quite different needs in terms of if you've got 10,000 people using Canva, can they go all crazy on messaging and changing the branding and everything? So we've worked really hard to provide them with the tools to control their brand, but also scale it out so they can make sure that when they do send out some templates to 10,000 people to internationalize in all their offices around the world, they know it's going to be high quality. They know it's going to be telling the right message. They know that the logo is going to be in the right spot and the colors are going to be the right colors. They can rest assured with all of that and roll it out really
Freedom,
easily.
but not too much. You don't want people
Exactly.
twisting your logo too much out there. For give me some sense. Obviously, generative AI, Chat GPT's become almost a substitute for it. I know you integrate, of course, AI tools within Canva. Is that a plus or a threat? Because it's hard to tell sometimes.
For us, it's definitely a plus, and it's hugely exciting. We've focused a lot on it. Well, we've kind of been leading the way for many years now. We probably did our first AI and machine learning aspects of Canva about 5 or 6 years ago. But often they were behind the scenes. They just kind of subtly helped out users in their experience. In the last 18 months, I would say, you've seen a lot more customer-facing, very obvious uses of AI. And it's been super exciting to see the leapfrogs that's been made in the technology over that time. But one of the things we've done over all the years of Canva is that it's not just good enough to take a piece of technology and slap it into your product, because no one actually wants to just use a piece of technology. They want to actually use it to get something done. And giving people that customer experience that solves a job they have to be done or solves a pain point that they have and make it easier, that's like the essential part of building great software and building a great product. And we're taking the same approach with AI. AI can be a fantastic leap forward, but only if you understand what users are trying to do and give them an easy way to interact with it and get results out of it. So we've thought very carefully about where we employ AI across all of our end-to-end experience, across all of our different design types, at every moment that someone is trying to design or might be hitting a problem in coming up with content that they're creating. And we've carefully integrated that across the platform to the extent that in March, we had an event that was almost wholly focused on AI. And we launched things like Magic Design, where you can just type anything or add a photo in, and it produces a design that's catered to your photo, that understands what's in it, what style it's in, what you're trying to communicate, and gives you the content that you need in mere seconds. Stuff like Magic Write, which integrates into our documents product, as well as every other design type across Canva. So with Magic Write, you can ask it to kickstart a document for you. So say you're looking to do a document that's looking at Strategies to grow in Mexico. You can just ask Magic Right to give you an outline of a strategy for marketing growth in Mexico, and it will start it off for you. And then you can tailor it from there. Or maybe you're trying to do a social media marketing campaign for your shampoo product. And you can ask it, give me a few ideas on how I might tell the story of a shampoo product in 15 seconds in an Instagram story. And it'll give you the outline for that and really kickstart you, because one of the biggest fears we see people having when they're approaching design and visual communication is the fear of a blank page, and being able to get them over that, give them that first step that they need to get going, build something up, and then show that off to their team. Super important when we're building the product.
How important is it to have homegrown technology versus working with partners like ChatGPT? Because I think there's certainly been some concern about, as you feed the tool then learns what you do and can come back and disrupt what you do. How do you think about this as a chief product officer in terms of what has to be built internally and what can be built using external tools?
I think when any part of the organization, whether it be technology or even finance or the software that we use to run the office, you can't have one point of failure. You need to be able to spread your risk and spread your experience. And when you're building product, it's great to be able to build across platforms and have the flexibility to move wherever you want. So we've had some great relationships with OpenAI, and we still do. Certain parts of our product are powered by them. We've also made sure that we're building up our muscle inside Canva itself. A few years ago, we acquired quite a pivotal team in Vienna, and they were called Kaleido. And they now power our background remover tool, which lets you take any photo or video, click one button, and it entirely removes the background from it. So you can have an easy headshot. You can take an object, put it on a different background, take a product shot, remove any noise from the back, and then upload it to your e-commerce store. And we've actually had over 2 billion photos and videos had their background removed through this technology. So that is a vital piece of Canva, and it's just one example of how we're building it internally and making sure that we're staying on the cutting edge of AI as well as our partners.
So I know you mentioned finance. I'll be honest, one of the things that I always find confusing is, valuation up, down. Does it matter? I mean, I know T. Rowe Price marked you down over 2/3. Other companies have been marking you up last fall. I mean, what difference does it make to your day job? I know certainly we get headlines out of it, but I'm curious about the day-to-day and how that impacts things.
Yeah, I think it makes good column inches in the news, but to us, it doesn't affect our day-to-day. We focus primarily on delivering customer value and the growth and return that we get from that. So we focus a lot on the number of people using Canva, as well as the amount of revenue we're generating from providing Canva for teams, Canva for enterprises, all those extra tiers that you can have. And those metrics, despite what the tech market has been doing over the last couple of years, those metrics for us have been up and to the right, and they're growing even better than they ever have. The number of people who now pay for Canva as part of our Teams product has more than doubled in the last year. We have 14 million people paying to use Canva. We have 50,000 teams inside large enterprises. Like the growth for us continues to grow, and valuations are often not a symptom of our own growth. They can be a symptom of all the economic forces that are going on at play, what the tech market's doing, what some Facebook or Tesla stocks are doing in the US, stuff out of our control. And we try not to focus on that. We focus on what we control and showing that value to our investors. And really our key core investors who've invested in Canva for 10 years now and continue to invest in every other round that we do, they strongly believe in where we're going. We've spent a lot of time explaining the vision to them and getting them excited about it. And they've equally as happy with the growth metrics that we have as we are. So I think they're all that we really worry about. And we're confident that valuations, every other growth metric that we have will continue to grow.
Do you, being in Austin, it is one of the centers of tech. I mean, if you step back a little bit to the 30,000 foot, what do you think's going on with the tech market in general? Because there has been this sense of whether the wind is in, their face maybe financially, but certainly the wind seems to be at the back of a lot of companies because we're at the cusp of this new age of innovation. How do you think about it yourself?
Yeah, I think you are. I think you are getting a few mixed messages, like from a bunch of companies, like a bunch of other companies have done layoffs. We've been really fortunate to continue to grow our headcount over the last 2 years. We're not affected by the buffeting winds as much, and we definitely feel like the wind is at our backs. I think it is true. You're seeing this new wave of innovation, and I think the companies that can really tap into that and stay innovative, which is the essential story of a startup, stay innovative, figure out how to properly integrate it into your product, deliver real customer value, and particularly do it whilst remaining profitable. That is the holy trinity of tech growth at the moment. And I think Canva's ticking all that. We've been profitable for the last 6 years, and it's something that we have focused keenly on because we've never wanted to be in a situation where someone else is telling us what to do, outlining our strategy. We're very confident in our vision, and we're very confident that we know where we need to go. And being at the behest of some investor that we're desperate to get around from isn't where we want to be. So making sure that we are profitable and that we're growing sustainably in a team sense has been a huge focus of ours for the last few years.
How much of an advantage do you think it is to be based in Australia?
It's definitely a huge advantage for us in the early days. I don't think we necessarily thought about it a huge amount. It was just where we needed to be because that's where we're from. That's our home. But we've been really keen to keep Australia our home. We've got a ton of international offices now, but the bulk of our staff are in Australia. We've got close to 2,000 there now. And it has been a great home to us and a very supportive one. The investor ecosystem has really flourished over the last 10 years. People's understanding of startups and the power of software that can be global has really grown over the last 10 years. And we haven't faced too many headwinds from being in Australia. Very early on, I think our very first investment round, there's a little bit of friction where we needed to get a few American investors on before the local Australian scene would support us. But after we'd done that, and then we approached our second and our third and our fourth rounds, people could obviously see that we were delivering value from here and there were no real impediments to our growth. So it's mainly been a really good story for us to be from Australia. And in a talent sense, it's actually been way less competitive than somewhere like San Francisco, where you hear stories of people joining a company for a year, getting their stocks vesting, and then leaving after that to go for the next big thing. At Canva, loyalty is a huge thing, and we've got quite a few people who joined us 10 years ago who are still at the company and enjoying having a massive impact.
Well, and I'm sure a massive income, I hope, from your own growth as well. But I'm curious with the Asia Pacific market. We hear a lot about the politics with China, for example, but that's also a huge center of innovation. I don't know if you want to talk about that as an advantage, but when you look at it as a product officer, what are you seeing in terms of both the appetite in the Asia Pacific market and where you're seeing some innovation there?
Yeah, Asia Pacific is huge for us, and some of our biggest growth areas are there. Indonesia is a huge market in its own right. I think they've got close to 300 million people in Indonesia now. And it's also one of the top 5 markets for Canva. We see amazing growth there, but it's also a really different market, which took us a little by surprise when we started internationalizing about 7 years ago. The different ways that people use products all around the world, the different types of technology they use it on, And particularly for us, the different types of content they need to communicate visually properly. So someone in Indonesia, the types of photos they use, the illustrations they want, the themes of the designs that they want to create, and the templates that they need to do that are all very different. And
Can you give us an
we have focused.
example? I mean, what would somebody, I'm an Indonesian Canva user. How am I using it differently than somebody, say, in New York?
So in the US, we tend to see a lot of people using Canva on desktops and laptops. In places like Brazil, Indonesia, it's a huge mobile market, and it's particularly a huge Android market. In terms of content, Ramadan is a huge event in Indonesia, and it affects a lot of their culture throughout the year. So we have to create, great content for Ramadan that people can use when they're doing promotions for their business, etc. In terms of when you think of photography, I mean, obviously Indonesian people look very different to people from the United States. They have different religions, they have different customs and cultures, and the content in the Canva needs to reflect that, because ultimately, when you're creating visuals, you're trying to communicate most often to people that are like you, that are doing the same things, that are living in the same societies. And we really try to make Canva a great home for everyone, no matter where they are in the world. It's quite amazing, actually, that when you talk to a lot of people who are Canva fans, they don't necessarily realize where it's built. So I actually went to Indonesia a couple of weeks ago, and the very first thing I heard when I landed into the country was, "Oh my God, do you work at Canva? I love it." And this was actually from the customs border person who was checking me in as I was showing them my passport. Yeah, it was amazing. He actually asked for some Canva swag, which I didn't think was a good idea because it kind of looked like I was bribing my way into the country. The customs, yes, they said next time you come in, bring a Canva t-shirt for me. But yeah, it's this real sense of home, and wherever you're using Canva, it feels like a product that is native to you. And we've focused on that huge amount over the last 7 years, and made sure that Canva is in over 100 languages. We're used in 190 different countries, and that international growth has been a massive part of Canva's story.
And China is a market that's been open to you as well. I'm just always curious, having worked there myself.
Yeah, China's a growing market for us. We actually have an office there. We actually have two offices there. We've got one in Beijing and one in Wuhan. And we found it actually really necessary to have offices specifically in China, because it is quite a different market. You need to tackle technology and infrastructure in a different way. Again, content and internationalization needs to be tackled in a very China-specific way. So we've actually needed to divert quite a few resources to growing in China, just because it is such a different and very unique market.
So I know you have this visual economy report that came out a couple of weeks ago. Give us some highlights as to what surprised you, what you gleaned from that research.
Yes, the visual economy report was something that we kicked off because we're really interested, particularly in how visual communication was being used in large businesses and really global businesses. So we went and talked to over 1,000 different business leaders all around the world, and asked them about how design and visual communication were affecting their businesses. We had some great stats come out of it. Over 90% of leaders thought that visual communication was increasing the efficiency within their companies.
A picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
A picture, yeah, and often it's worth more than 1,000 words. 89% of them thought that it was enhancing their collaboration, and 85% felt that it carried more authority when they're talking externally through marketing, as well as through internal communications as well, like when you're doing a presentation to your teammates, etc. I think what was really interesting to us from out of that was how much visual communication is also a generational thing. So Gen Z and even Gen Alpha are really picking up on it and becoming more
Is Gen
connected.
Alpha, what age is Gen Alpha?
Gen Alpha, I think, is probably like 10 to 20 now.
Okay. I'm
wasn't
Gen
wasn't
X, so it's like,
wasn't it
meh.
wasn't a huge part of the visual economy report, but it's something we're starting to see come through, particularly through our education product, which gets used in a lot of classrooms all around the world. But yeah, Gen Z and millennials are particularly tapped into visual communication, and tools like Canva are just hugely allowing them to have a greater impact, and work in a way that's much more native to them, that's more familiar, that enables them to then be more productive.
So, Cameron, I want to turn the spotlight a bit on you because I was intrigued by some of the investments you've made. Like, I guess a company that created a digital version, a digital farm. I mean, you've got your own, investments you've made in startups. What's intriguing to you? What gets your attention right now?
Yes, my wife and I are really keen to be able to use the really great luck that we've managed to have with Canva to have a positive impact on the world. And to us, the natural world, biodiversity, the environment are hugely important for the
That's
future
what
of the
you're in
planet.
Tasmania, one of the most, ecologically interesting parts of the world.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world that has so many endemic species, really different ecosystems, and in some ways, it's a real capsule that isn't replicated anywhere else in the world. So being there has rekindled our love for nature and really how it impacts us as humans. It's often easy to forget how much we rely on ecosystem services when you're living in a big city where you don't see many trees every day, and it takes you 2 hours to get out into the wild. But being in Tasmania has given us so much more access to that, and really fueled our thoughts around the amplification and the kind of levers that we can use to help that world, sometimes through tech, sometimes through better land management practices. But that's where we're focusing on investing. And that tool that you mentioned, Agronomy, they help landowners map their land through LiDAR mapping and get a real deep understanding that you don't just get through satellite imagery. So understanding soil health, tree height, the number of trees on your property, where the water flows across your property, where erosion might be happening, the different types of species that might be inhabiting different parts of your property, and how you might be able to help them out. So it ties into not only really great regenerative agriculture, but also conservation, and better understanding of biodiversity. And it just ticks all the right boxes for us.
No, I think that sounds amazing. So if you could wave a wand and remove any type of friction in your day job, in your business, personal life, what would you change right now? Because when you hear about somebody's trajectories up, 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 where are the challenges?
So for us, we're always on this continuous journey to empower the world to design. And basically that means making it easier and faster to get high quality, impactful moments of communication to everyone in the world. AI is just another great example of how you can continue to shorten that timeline. So 10 years ago, it might have taken you a month to get a business card printed. With Canva, it takes 3 days. With AI, it just shortens that even further. So we're constantly looking for ways to shorten that journey, bring it to more people, and enable them to tell better stories.
That doesn't sound like friction, though. Is there anything that, maybe nothing keeps you up at night, or maybe it does feel like it's been an easy path, but are there particular challenges, maybe regulatory challenges, maybe technology challenges? What do you wish you could do that you can't currently?
There's not a lot that keeps us up. We have a really strong vision, and there's still a long journey ahead of us. We jokingly, but half truthfully say that we're only 1% of the way there, which means that we've still got a huge amount to achieve, and a huge amount to build and grow. And we're constantly looking at that roadmap and prioritizing and thinking about what we're building next. But we don't really see friction points. We just see what we can build, what resources we need to do that, and how we can progress to the next stage.
Then let me end by asking you to help us see around corners a bit, maybe a bit blue sky. I mean, what's on your radar right now that you would want to put on ours?
definitely the rise of AI that we've kind of gone through and the productivity gains that you can get through that. But particularly, I think for businesses, large enterprises who haven't embraced visual communication so far. We've spent the last 10 years creating this category of visual communication tools that are easy to use. And the next 10 years will be scaling that on, kind of steroids. So we've got 135 million users now. We want 1 billion people to be able to use Canva and beyond. And being able to grow into that, provide all the use cases that people need when they're thinking about visual communications, provide what huge enterprises need to control their messaging and their brand and get everyone across all their teams using it. That's what we're focusing on for the next 10 years.
That is a lot of t-shirts at border crossings, I think you're going to be carrying in the next few years. So thank you.
I'm gonna need a separate luggage case with me every time I go through.
Great. Thanks very much for joining us, Cameron.
Thanks, Diane.